First time I ever got into trouble with my diagnosis was when I was talking to this guy, and it was weird because I thought we really connected. I told him everything about my life, fears, interests, everything. And suddenly he just snapped and begged for me to shut up. And I was so embarrassed I didn't know what else to do, so I just left the confessional. I'm Michael McCreary, I'm 19 years of age. I do stand-up comedy for a living. When it comes to Asperger's, what I want them to walk away from my set with is that no two are alike.
In our house, we live both ends of the autism spectrum, the more challenged individuals and the individuals like Mikey with Asperger's syndrome.
My folks were just extremely knowledgeable of the autism spectrum at this point because my brother was diagnosed before I was. I was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 5. He was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was 3 years old.
Well, the interesting thing about being a parent is when you start out when your kids are young, you're worried about the first level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, you keep them safe, you feed them, safe and warm, that sort of thing. And then as they develop, you're more interested in their self-esteem and their confidence and working on those kinds of things. And then ultimately the self-actualization side where they've got an opportunity to do their creative things and seek personal fulfillment. So as a parent, it's been sort of that kind of a ride through the years, because Michael started very, very young getting involved in performing arts. As a third grade student, he did his first play. By the time he was in fourth grade, he was winning talent shows as a singer. And started with Theatre Orangeville's Young Company, doing those kinds of things. So it's been a development process. Now we're at a point where we're much more peers than a father-son relationship. We just have different jobs to do. His job is to perform. My job is to get him there on time, book the event, worry about the business side of it, and so that he doesn't have to be concerned with those kinds of things.
They never talked down to me. They didn't talk to me like I was an adult and gave me the techno-babble of what my disorder was, but they were very blunt with what I needed to do because that's the only way I could understand things. With Asperger's syndrome, people think you don't pick up on social cues and the like because you have a lack of empathy. It's actually, I think, because I have too much empathy. I read too much into a scenario. When someone gives me a vague thing, it's like, how you doing? I'm fine. I'm like, oh, they hate me. Or am I thinking too much about them hating me? Do they not hate me at all? Why am I looking too deep into this? And by the time I've just wasted 20 minutes of my life dwelling on this. My mom worked so hard at social networking for me when I was a kid, you know, finding me a good group of kids that understood a good sandbox tech environment, just how to accommodate me there. And at home, they were just wonderfully accommodating for when I was a kid, I had all these sensory issues. Like, I called it having a lump and a clump in my sock. Because they would have, you know, these socks, they have like these little things on the end. I don't care now, but back when I was a kid, the little divots that they would have in these socks, like the little tiny lumps, would drive me insane, you know? And I would just go, like it was just make my skin crawl. So they would go in and take a scissors on the inside and like just take the little, not out the stitching, but just finally like tailor-made my socks just to get rid of these little bumps, you know? So it was just, they were just more than accommodating to me.
Oh, geez, that's, it's so hard to figure out where to start, like it always is. I think we first met at an organization called Carrie's Place. It was kind of like a daycare center for kids with autism. And I just remember meeting this little guy who had a stack of Pokemon cards, and he wanted to role play as the Pokemon. I think we stuck through each other the most throughout hockey when we played for the Orangeville Wolves. Yeah, we were really good in that, and then we kind of just stopped after I left hockey. Then we kind of just stopped getting in touch with each other, and it was sort of like that for a while. He's done a lot more for me than I can really count, and I owe him my life because of it, pretty much.
At this one birthday party, I was obsessed with the color green. I don't know why. I do know why, because green rules. It's a superior color. But the thing was, is the ultimate color. And when I was a kid, this was the end-all, be-all of anything, not just colors. So when I was at this birthday party, and they were having a water balloon fight, and there was one green balloon, so I picked up the green balloon, and people were like, "Hey, Michael, just throw it," and they were being really cool. Like, they were just saying, just have a good time and throw it. So I just kind of looked both left, right, did an ocular pat down of the area, and I just booked it through a suburban area with this balloon, and it took them a couple hours to find me. So like I was weird.
The thing about Mike is that no matter who you are, what age you're at, you can connect with him instantly. Because he's sort of like an open dictionary of just like all these different things that he's into, media, you know, books, movies, and all that jazz. And it's easy to connect with him. I remember in high school this one time, it was, I think, co-op. I forget the kid's name, but he managed to talk with this guy who he'd never met before for a half hour about food, like egg salad, what goes good with egg salad, who made egg salad, where it comes from.
I was eccentric. I just couldn't stop talking about dinosaurs. I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I loved the BBC Walking with Dinosaurs growing up. You know, I had all the VHS tapes. I brought them in. I remember one of my favorite things was, it was around on my birthday. They said, "Hey, Michael, it's your birthday. You get to do something cool for show and tell." And I said, "I brought in a movie." And it was Walking with Prehistoric Beasts, the sequel. And it's awesome. It's a great sequel. And it was funny because the teacher just kind of said, they said, "Okay, so we're just going to watch an episode of this." And I've never seen so many 6-year-olds cry. And I was just desensitized because I was like, no, that's just nature taking its course.
Mike's just a great guy, and I'm glad to have him as... I'm just going to restate everything I said if I just keep going. But he's a great guy. Glad he's in my life. Wouldn't want him to change for anything.
Feel the heat. I think we should repeat that part. Yeah. Feel my heat. Woo! Okay, were we recording that? Were we laying it down on that one?
Double take, probably.
Oh, it was probably Susan. How are we doing on that one? Did we get the levels? Okay. She's giving us the mix. You want to do it again? Okay. No. 3, 2, 3, 4. When I was growing up, people ask a lot. They say, "How does your Asperger's affect the way you see things?" It doesn't change the way I perceive anything at all. And especially when you're a kid, you don't notice. And other kids don't really pick up on that because all kids are weird. Kids have no filter. It's great. Like, I'm just as eccentric as everyone else that's like pretending the cardboard box is a castle or a rocket ship dragon. I don't know. No one thinks much of you when you're 6. I hit a rough patch in my grade 7 year and was severely ostracized by people that I really valued and thought were my friends, you know, and they just really kind of screwed me over. People started to establish their cliques and their own respective groups, and I had a group, and I didn't pick up on it at that point, but I didn't realize I was basically I was the butt monkey. I was the butt of the jokes for this group, you know, which was really disheartening in retrospect because I found that I went out of my way for this group. They were just so ungrateful, you know. I actually would have forgiven so much more if I just got so much as a thank you. And it's funny because being on the spectrum, I had to learn social skills, you know. I had to sort of, because they know I have a problem, they don't know really how to tackle it. So so my folks say, "Okay, we understand what we're dealing with here," and so they teach you things that every parent, I think, should teach their child. They teach them basic etiquette, manners, just common courtesy, respect, you know, how to be responsible. And then you put it into practice, and then you get to school and realize no one else has learned this because they don't have a diagnosis telling them they're different enough to warrant being told how to act, you know? So so that really plays a lot into my comedy about the idea of just the double standard of having to unlearn and relearn things.
There's going to be hard times. It's unavoidable. But honest to God, just stick with your guns. Don't ever for a second think about just letting it all sink in on you. Like all the anger, the confusion, the depression, unavoidable depression. And your way will come, one way or another. And even when your way does come, it's still going to take some time, and it's still going to be hard to find that way. But when it does happen, you'll be at ease, and everything will get a little better each and every day.
So individuals who are typically called Asperger are those who have issues around typically social interactional kinds of issues, of applying their daily skills to those interactions with others, and how that impacts on a regular basis, on an ongoing basis for them. So they're individuals who are fairly talented. They may have average to above average intelligence typically, and again, certainly have the skills to, in many cases, to come to university. But the social challenges are very significant, and the range of interests that the individuals have may be not typical to what they might be for people without Asperger. So they may have very strong interests in very narrow areas. I think what's important, and what I remind families about, is that notion that yes, Asperger may be present, but nonetheless this is still just a typically developing individual who's developing skills all the time in the same way that any other child or adult would be. But it's complicated by the overlay, as it were, of the filter of Asperger or ASD. And the challenge is going to be to understand what's the impact of that filter, and then to help the individual deal with those issues. In talking with our adults in our program, many of them are quite content to talk about their diagnosis, to talk about their characteristics and so on. Many are not, but it's partly a process of helping the individual understand themselves, understand their limitations, and for the parents or the others in the environment to, again, help the individual become the best they can be, essentially. And that's true for individuals with Asperger as much as it is for anyone else. So I essentially try to normalize the characteristics of the individual and make sure that they're treated first and foremost as people and not a disorder.
My mom found out that a man named David Cranier, my mentor and the Happy Neurotic, he runs this program out of British Columbia called Stand Up for Mental Health, which is like a group therapy sessions in which people struggling with a variety of different mental health issues or neurodevelopmental disorders come in and just find ways to turn just all the crap they've put up with into jokes, just how to write material from this really sad life experience. It was a really great therapeutic experience just to sort of tell what feels like the end of the world to people, and then just have them kind of laugh about it. Not at you, but with you, because no good comedy ever came from having an awesome day. The only difference between comedy and tragedy is its audience and what their expectations are, like you come in to cry or you come in to laugh at people. So what we were doing really was just taking things from our childhood or just from our life experience and applying it to the stand-up medium. So the first joke I ever wrote stemmed from, he just asked me, David Granier asked me in the class on the first day, okay, what's your name? Michael. What do you have? Asperger syndrome. And he says, okay, elaborate on Asperger syndrome. What is it? I talk too much. And he says, tell me a place where I got you in trouble. Well, I went to summer camp one time and I was just really excited about something and a kid told me to shut my face. And he said, where was this? And I said, Bible camp. And so he said, okay, so already we have someone there. Ever since I moved down to the city and started taking classes down at Second City, I've been really motivated just to start writing more in my off time, and I just really like, sometimes it doesn't matter if you just hear something weird overhead on the subway or whatever, it doesn't matter what the inspiration is. I just really want to just write a couple jokes about it, even if they're bombs, just to get something out there, because everything is usable, everything's good material to some extent. I like doing sketch writing in my off time. I just like writing. That's a word that's not going to get overused at all in this talk. The extent of my material, really, it ranges from just writing on just folded up pieces of notes on grocery lists, as you saw, on receipts, on napkins, on disability checks. I it's just a never ending. It's just a never ending cycle. And you see, a lot of these actually, what I don't do is, in the initial stage, I usually take it to the laptop after this. But what I like doing is I like writing down a premise. I love writing down a premise. Hey, you, in the book, you know, so just the sort of bare bones of an idea. Like, I never sit down and try to craft a joke because that will take up so much time. The comedy was an interesting period. When the comedy actually stemmed from a mix of performing, and when I was very young, I'd always come home every day and I just wanted to overload my folks with information, you know, like I just wanted to tell them my stories, plural. And my folks never sleep. They sleep Sundays. So it's between my dad working, my mom's a stay-at-home mom and is looking after my younger brother, profoundly challenged autistic, 24/7. So really, it's just there's only so much you can take, you know, information you can have thrown at them. So they said just start journaling things, and that evolved from just writing things down and just writing down feelings and emotions to actually crafting out stories and then tightening things. I became a fan of the whole brevity thing, dude, and just started really writing out just what turned into jokes. And it's kind of eclectic. This is the only thing I will say. It's funny because I talk about being so detail oriented and being just very precise, you know, with getting things down. But this is the only time you will look at my notes and it looks kind of like something the Zodiac Killer would have made. It's a dark comparison, but I don't write about that. It's except very interesting. It says Lee Harvey Oswald impressionist for okay, right. That was weird. You see, I always love, this is the other thing that I find funny is revisiting material after I've had the in the moment excitement of going, hey, there's a bit there. Because then you have the realization of, how early was that in the morning? It's very Seinfeldian. After getting that first laugh, you know, you kind of become addicted to it because in the stand-up setup, I like to look at it as less just talking at people and more having a super one-sided conversation. Like comedy to me at this point is just, it is group therapy for me. Asperger's syndrome was named after the man who discovered it, Dr. Hans Asperger. Great, so first you're telling me I'm a socially awkward misfit. How can we make you fit in? I know, we'll tell people you have Asperger's. And who could possibly make fun of that? Oh yeah, you think? Doctor, this patient weighs over 250 pounds. BP's 210 over 150. Paramedics found him stuck in a Wendy's drive-thru and had to use the jaws of life to pry a triple bacon cheeseburger from his sweaty palms. Dear Lord, what do we do? My God. This man has Asperger's. I think giving people this sort of very impromptu education on Asperger's and autism is just super gratifying when you do have this connection of people on the spectrum, neurotypicals alike, coming up afterwards and saying, I learned something today, you know? And not in a way of just saying, oh, that was very educational, that's what, but no, they love the presentation they seem to really enjoy because it was just showing that they can do it too, you know? I mean, it's something that, of course you have to work at everything. I mean, if you want to be good at something, you have to put effort at it. But what I'm trying to say is that for anyone on the spectrum, no two are the same, and that no one has any right to take away your interests or your fixations and obsessions. No one should tell you what you should be interested in. You know, I like coming out here just to start asking myself the big questions, and not even questions really. I just like to think about life, job, and my family, really having to pee. What I love, just as much as the stand-up, is post-show interactions with the public. You know, I don't like leaving a show. I love going down and talking to people, engaging them, and just interacting, because I really thrive on that. I'm very extroverted by nature. I just really, I really love this sort of human connection, you know, because I just love people, you know, for all their quirks and faults. It just makes them more interesting to me. I really love people. This woman came up to me after a show, and she said that she lives, her grandson lives with her, and she said that I gave her hope for her grandson. It reminds me why I do what I do when I have these conversations with people. They just motivate me to continue, not just as a performer, but as an advocate. What I love about my job more than anything is getting that first laugh, not for me, but seeing people relax in their seats and understand they're gonna have a good time, because people, we forget sometimes. We, as a people, I think, in this generation, we take ourselves super seriously. Like, and now more than ever, I mean, we communicate via electronic interface, you know? Like, we're talking to each other through a screen. There's no real human connection. So now I want to tear down those barriers and just talk to people. Even if they aren't saying anything back, I just want to engage them, you know? Like, verbally, facially, making eye contact, and just let them know that it's okay. You can sort of be yourself for just this period of time. He got you on that one. I knew you'd come around, kid.
You just sit down with Mike for, I think, 5 minutes at the most and just talk with him about anything. You will see how credible of a person he is and how he can help change who you are.
Showtime.